everyone, and welcome to another wonderful episode of The Lion's Den. I'm your host, Venezia Leone, and today I sat down with Luis Velásquez, who's the VP LATAM at ANS and founder of Wisergy. Luis and I's conversation today deep dives into how he leads. He spends so much time thinking about his employees, providing a comfortable and safe environment for them and their families, and he really attributes so much of the success to these principles that Wisergy was founded on and that he continues to lead through their acquisition and their other acquisition through ANS. We talk about the renewable energy ecosystem, the different kinds of energy sources, how he decides on a project, what types of energy to implement, and based on the needs of the project. And it's just a really interesting look into the renewable energy field and who he is as a leader. So you definitely don't want to miss it. And thanks again for joining the Lion's Den. Hi, Luis. So excited to have you on the Lion's Den today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Venetia, for inviting me to a great podcast. I hope that we have a great chat today and we learn more about renewable energy.
Absolutely. We'll make it happen. So you've worked on over 140 renewable projects across 14 countries. What originally got you into the renewable energy world, and what inspired you to build an entrepreneurship founded company in it?
So back in 2009, I was getting my structural master. Once I finished, I started working on a wind project that was being developed in Tegucigalpa, which is the capital of Honduras. I got in contact with the developer, which was an American company. They needed some local expertise to help them out on the construction monitoring of the project. I was part of that project for a little over a year. During that time, I grew fond of renewable energy. I got my master in renewable energy. And then I traveled to the UK and started working with a company called OST Energy. The company was located in Brighton, that's south coast of England. And after that, I spent there a couple of years and working with different nationalities because we have colleagues in South Africa, we had colleagues in Milan. While still being a small company, we were like probably 30 professionals, really young. Everyone was below 40 at that
Wow.
time. Myself, I was just 25. And while working with them, I learned that you can put yourself any milestone that you want. And if you work hard for it, you can achieve it. Back in 2020, I was living in Jamaica, working for a developer, trying to get new experiences because I have been involved in construction, I have been involved in consultancy and engineering, and I wanted to try a bit of the developer side. With COVID, the traveling was restricted. You couldn't
Mm.
really move around. So we developed a little over 20 megawatts of projects in Jamaica, and but we couldn't construct. We like construction was stopped because no one could travel.
Mm.
So I had to become creative and see what I was going to do. And I said, well, um, engineering is always needed. So I flew down to Mexico and set up my company here. I started in the kitchen of my back then apartment. A couple of friends we couldn't really meet because of COVID, and then little by little everything started opening up, and the company was created in December 2020. And from then, we haven't stopped working, we haven't stopped growing, we haven't stopped supporting clients.
Yeah, that's amazing. So why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about what Wisergy is, and maybe even what it originally was supposed to be, and if it kind of turned into something else as you hit various roadblocks and opportunities and things like that.
Well, Wisergy's was an engineering and consultancy company started by engineers here in La Paz, Mexico. The road and the roadblocks have been changing with time because, as you could think, is like COVID time. We had different challenges, like you couldn't travel that much. You had to be careful when you go to sites. The clients didn't want you to get their uh, professional sick or their employee sick. So wearing the mask, taking care of yourself, aside from doing your typical work, was an added burden. So around that time, it was a mix of, okay, you have job responsibilities that you need to fulfill when you are designing or coming into the office, but you also have personal responsibilities like wearing your mask, cleaning your hands, or if you're sick, not come to the office, and so on. So challenges, as you become an entrepreneur, challenges are not fixed. Because if a challenge is fixed, it means that you're not doing what you need to do to remove it.
Mm,
Uh, so with time, challenges come and go, and depending on what you're trying to do with your organization, you need to be able to identify those challenges and work around them to like overcome those. As I said, those are not the challenges are not static. Like before, when we created Wisergy, the challenges was like working with COVID, getting clients, being able to travel, and so on. But a couple of years, like probably 2021, after 1 year into the company, we didn't have to chase clients. Clients were looking for us. Uh, we didn't have to worry about who are we going to hire because we have a good labor pool here in Mexico. And the other part of it was like the Mexican code and the US code are very alike. So, having
mm,
said that, uh, working with US professionals and professionals here in Baja was not really a burden because they could talk the same language. Um, Now, as you grow, and you have a company that has more professionals in it, you need to start creating a culture to include those new people within your company.
mm,
And you need to start creating the foundation of that culture because at the beginning, as I was telling you, I started in my kitchen table in my apartment. So it was just a team of two. So it was easy to keep a culture because I was leading. My other colleague, he was a good friend of mine. So it was easy to create that collaboration, that respect, that good environment in which you could push yourself to work. But as the company grows, you also need to spend time not only getting clients, but also making sure that the culture in your company is the right one or is the one that you are striving for. Because one big difference, Benicio, here is that in engineering and consultancy, as you know, we don't sell pizzas, we don't sell burgers. We sell the knowledge of our people, you know. And if we as leaders we don't take care of the well-being of our people, then it's very unlikely that your company is gonna succeed.
yeah, yeah,
So challenges, I will say that they go through a change and they change as your organization grow or suffer changes, and a leader is there to identify those challenges, remove the obstacles from the road so the team can keep progressing and moving forward, and also to avoid frustration, because if you're a leader, people is pointing at obstacles but you're not really jumping into those to remove them, then you will lose trust of your team. Those are my 2 cents on how the obstacle go through a metamorphosis in time.
yeah. I think it's really interesting what you say about people because that's kind of a running theme in a lot of these episodes is the leaders who are able to achieve success are ones who are intentional about making sure that their people are cared for and that the systems they have in place support their employees. And that's something that we've heard a lot and I think is kind of a characteristic of a good leader, right? Is you're not just worried about the revenue and the customers and all of that, but you're also worried about the people who are working hard and working with you. So I want to kind of look at that problem or that perspective and look at it through the lens of Wisergy's journey through acquisition and your leadership, and would love to hear a little bit about how did you maintain that culture going through that transition? Or how did you have to shift it to join together multiple teams or multiple cultures or multiple initiatives?
So initially, it was easier because we all come to the office. And back in 2021, 22, we were a team of 15. Now we are a team of almost 40. But every new onboard that we bring, it's assigning mentor. And I personally check in on the new ones, at least for the first 3 months, not to see if they're technically learning, if they're making progress on a software. No, no. I check on them to see how they're doing, how they're feeling. Are they having any issues like missing home? Are they having any? Because I bring people from abroad, La Paz or mainland Mexico.
Cool.
So, you need to take care of your people in a genuine way. Like you need to mean it. Else, if people realize that you're just pretending, that is even
Mm,
worse.
mm,
So you have to be real to them. You have to be, even when you are growing as a leader, you can always spare those 30 minutes for that junior professional that might want to come to your office and just make him come without an agenda. Let him ask whatever he wants, because again, it's a junior. What experience can you expect from a young professional that has recently graduated from college? He's actually expecting people at the workplace to be able to grab his hand, not as in kindergarten, but like guide him in a proper way, in a way that he will be able to push through issues, obstacles in a secure and supported way. That way, you keep the culture of, okay, yeah, here I get support, I get heard, and like my voice count. Because if you just like put a board on the off in the office and you are not really doing it as a leader, then you cannot expect that the uh, other colleagues or coworkers are going to be doing it. So you have to lead by example, and you have to make sure that people understand that you care about them. At the beginning, when I started the company, I used to, in December, most of my guys will go back to their houses, and I used to drop them at the airport, ask them when they were coming back, and I'll pick them up in January. We were a team of like 10. So they grew up with that. And now we have grown too much that I cannot do that with everyone. But
yeah.
the other people, my other colleagues that used to get a ride from me, guess what? They're giving rides to their colleagues now to the airport. So
Mm,
I embedded that culture in a way that, okay, I don't necessarily have to do 100%, but then I have other colleagues that they ask each other, hey, when are you leaving this day? I'll pick you up and I'll drop you at the airport. So they don't have to feel alone. They feel supported. Their own working team is part of their family. And that way we create that culture in which we can see each other on a Saturday or Sunday and have fun outside of work. We can see each other family, know their kids, know their wife, and go out to dinner with them. So you have, I think that we have learned with time that the workplace is just the workplace. But to me, it's just not the workplace. You spend, most times, you spend more time at work than what you actually spend at home. So if you don't have that place where you say, hey, I want to go to the office, I want to see Pedro, I want to see Juan, and I want to shake hands with them and have breakfast to see what they did on the weekend, then probably work is not the one thing that is going to create that enthusiasm to come to the office every day, you know? Uh, and I understand that because we're people, and although we can be as professional as we want, we have feelings and emotions. And you cannot erase that, because if you erase that from a person, then they're not humans.
yeah.
So I do care about that. I do help my people uh, drive their emotions so it doesn't affect their work. Um, Meaning that they need to acquire emotional intelligence for sure, but that doesn't mean that they cannot feel sad, they cannot cry or anything. We're people, so when that happens, instead of trying to neglect their feelings, I make sure that they feel supported, that they feel heard. Sometimes you cannot really be part of the solution because sometimes there are personal things that you cannot get in between. But at least if you are that leader that give that hug, that is able to sit down for 10 minutes and listen to that colleague that it's going through something, it might be work, it might be life, it might be whatever, but you show yourself as that available person that is willing to spend that time with them, that also counts as um, putting people first and working with people, not making people work for you.
Are you guys hiring? I'm
Yeah, we
like,
have
this is the people leader we need.
we have different things that have changed in time. Like for example, when I started the company, I knew that my business was low or slow in December, January. As I was telling you, most of my people is not necessarily from La Paz. They're from Mexico City, from Monterrey, and other cities. So before the acquisition, everyone will go on home office from December 15 up to January 4th or 7th, because it didn't make sense for me to have people sitting in the office where they could be with family,
Yeah.
just eating a tamal or just eating like Christmas food, and then they
Mm,
come back in January with all the energy. They're not missing anything from home, and I
yeah.
can assure you that they're gonna be top performers. But if you have someone here going to their house like or home like December 23rd and then having to fly back on January the 2nd, it's like, okay, it's he got time at home, but not necessarily the time that I would want them to be at home, you know. And for Latin American people, there are very few important things, and one of those is family. I think that for us, family is number one, and from grandma all the way to siblings, we enjoy time with them. And at the end of the day, Benicia, you don't have two lives; you only have one. So in that one life that you have to do the best not only for your job place or workplace, but also for your family. Because I don't want people here coming to work regretting that they didn't get permission to go and visit their sick mom or their sick dad. Or no, I mean, if you have an issue like that, you go to home office, be there with your family, and we will know how to deal with your work. We will know how to resource what you were doing, but I want you to be there for your family. Yes, we have
Yeah.
to work. Yes, we have to perform, but you cannot perform if you are thinking, doing a drawing, and you're thinking, oh, my mom is sick and I'm not there. That's the recipe for bad work, bad quality, and for unhappy people. And my team, they know that I got their back. From the recent graduate to the more experienced professional in my office, my door is always open. They can come in, and if I'm in a call or something like that, I will look for them afterwards for sure. I mean, before leaving the office, I will go and drop up to the other office and say, "Hey, you look for me. I'm here. Let's go to my office and get that person the respect that he deserves," right? Because not being available or not showing up for meetings just because it is a recent graduate or a lower level position, that for me is the highest disrespect that you can show, not to that person but to your team, because respect starts from the bottom all the way to the top. You cannot do it top to bottom because it doesn't work. So I have embedded that culture in my office. Like, we treat each other nice. We greet each other nice every morning. If you see people walking on the hallway, they will always like bump your fist or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
I have a young crew. I think that I have people from 22 to 34, like 80% of my company.
Wow.
Yeah, and they are smart kids. They work efficiently. I am so proud of them. And I'm so proud of many of them that started with me back in 2020 because they knew zero.
Yep.
I mentored them from coming out of college to being perfect project managers.
Yeah.
I have a colleague, Victoria Ponce. She started very early into the company. She's a renewable energy engineer, and I mean, she is just a project by herself. Like just seeing her grow. When I started the company, I was not aware that my satisfaction was not going to come from income or revenue, but was going to come from seeing all those kids that now are friends grown into professionals, being able to handle their projects, being able to move around and travel around the US or even the world by themselves, just like following some guidance from me and some mentoring that I gave them. Now that we're in another company, they have more sources that they're getting information and learning from, which makes
Hmm.
me happier, because my intention at the time, I said like I was going to make a big company and I was going to sell it, and then that was going to be the idea of my life. But it turned out different because I sold the company, but now I cannot leave my team. I love them so much that I stay with them, and I like my job as well. And we meet every day. We go for breakfast probably once a week, and they'll bring coffee or sweets to my office, and I'll go and bother them to their office. But also, they know that if they feel that their world is about to implode, they need to come to me. If they have a problem, they need to come to me because I will help them. And I cannot tell you how much pressure I take off their backs just by doing that. Because they might come here with the world is on their backs. And I'm like, why don't you do this and do that and take this here and call this one here? Oh yeah, you're right. So you come with seeing a colleague that it's all sad and anxious for not being able to do certain stuff, and being able to be that person that helps them and remove that anxiety from them just makes me happy.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think every leader of any organization that I'm a part of, I would hope would say the words that you're saying right now. Like, truly, it is inspiring to think about how little it appears that you think about yourself and how much time it sounds like you spend thinking about empowering your employees around you to be the best version of themselves. It sounds like in and out of work. Like, that's just magical. So I do want to ask a couple questions about renewable energy, as it's something that I don't necessarily know that much about. So, you've worked on all these different projects, solar, wind, hydro. You've been learning your whole career, but especially over these past 5 years. Can you talk a little bit about like how these systems actually power the energy transition, and maybe like what projects your team does to impact renewable energy?
Sure. So every technology has different ways of producing power. I'm gonna speak really high level of each one.
Yeah.
For solar, you have a solar cell that has electrons crashing at each other, and they collect the energy on a diode box and send it over to the inverter. Then for wind, you have just like think of like a ventilator just turning around, created a magnetic field, and then getting that energy into an inverter and getting into the grid. For the hydro, well, you have water. There are different type of hydro, but typically it's putting water into a pipe that goes down with pressure, moves a turbine, and that movement of the turbine created magnetic field more or less similar to the wind. It's just like the turbine in the hydro is moved by water, but more or less the similar system in which you create a magnetic field that creates energy, goes to a wire send it through the grid.
Yeah.
Having said that, the most common technology nowadays is solar, just because it's easy to install, um, and it's easy to maintain. You don't necessarily need as much, I would say, special equipment to perform O&M on a solar side than what you do on a wind or hydro side. The needs of the energy, Venetia, has shifted with time. The more electrical things we have in our houses increases the consumption that each person has. So you might think of our our fathers didn't have a cell phone, didn't have a laptop, and didn't have probably
An iPad and an Apple
an
Watch and
iPad.
a
Exactly all of that. If you add all that consumption, then probably you and I are consuming way more than our parents, you know? That means that the generation of energy also needs to increase.
mm,
Now, if you add to that mix EV cars, and then if you add to that mix data centers,
mm,
that has increased the energy consumption very high. So, in order for, call it like 5 years ago, pre ChatGPT, the driver for energy consumption was people, at least in the US. People, and then you had a good chunk of EV cars that were sucking from the grid, and they were creating that uh, consumption. But now you need to think of data centers now. Data centers, imagine that you have um, 10,000 microwaves in one room, and
yeah.
you turn them on all at once. The energy consumption density that you will have at that point will be very high.
Mm,
So, in order to fulfill that, you need to create energy generation sources, call it hydro, wind, or solar, uh, to be able to provide energy to that data center or that AI center. And those are very high consumption structures.
mhm,
So, nuclear takes too much time to develop. Wind takes more time than solar to develop. Hydro takes more time than solar to develop. And the locations in which you can put wind and hydro are not necessarily next to a data center, right? So if you're able to find a flat land with a lot of more flat land next to it, then you can put the data center, and you can put a good size solar project plus batteries that you can use to power that data center.
mhm,
I have not seen hydro projects powering data center. Those are more for human consumption or industry consumption, just for the fact that you cannot locate a hydro dam next to a data center or vice versa. I have not seen that. I'm not saying that it's not possible.
yeah.
You could be able you could power a data center with hydro power. That's not a problem. It's just like the industry has not needed that yet, and has focused more on battery and PV. So most of the consumption that you see now is, I would say, the big spike that we're seeing in the US is because of data centers and AI. Um, and then another big addition to that is EV cars. More and more people is buying electric cars, and or hybrid, which you still need to connect,
Mhm,
and you're adding that consumption. So I think that in the US, mainly solar is the like driving technology for new energy generation sources. There are few wind projects that are being built, but I think that the majority of what we have seen lately are solar. We have not seen hydro uh, lately. So I'll say that big driver of consumption right now is technology.
yeah.
That's the biggest driver that we have, and humans and houses.
So a quick follow-up question on that because I'm genuinely interested. So is the way that it works a company would come to you and say, or your company, et cetera, and say, hey, I want to build a data center, and then you are responsible for saying, okay, this is the best type of energy, and here's how we should build it and organize it and frame it so that we're maximizing energy production per square foot. Like, is that kind of how the process works, and each data center is powered by its own group of energy?
So normally you have the data centers also connected to the grid,
Okay.
so they could grab power from the renewable energy source or the generation source that they have and the grid.
Okay.
Um,
So it's like a
when
supplemental power source for a lot of these businesses. Okay.
exactly,
Got it.
exactly. Think of it like you have the batteries uh, next to your or close to your data center, and then 5 p.m., 6 p.m., everybody is coming off the office. Energy consumption goes up. Uh, the grid cannot provide the totality of the energy to the data center.
Got
Then
it.
the batteries come in for 3, 4 hours. 10 p.m., everybody's going to bed.
Mm,
Consumption drops. The grid can provide the energy now to that data center.
got it.
That's just one case, one scenario. You can analyze plenty, but mainly what we receive from the developers of the data center or the project is the need of energy that that data center will have. I will
Mm,
need X amount of megawatts hour for my data center. So you design your project based on the requirements of that data center. There are several site conditions that you need to assess to be able to know, for example, how much energy you're going to be able to produce. That means that you need to define what type of module you're going to use. Is it going to be like bifacial? Is it going to be a monofacial module? Are you going to use a tracking system, or is it going to be a fixed system? What type of module capacity are you picking or choosing? Then what type of inverter? And are you adding batteries or not adding batteries, and so on. So there are
wow.
different variables that you need to take into account in order to determine how much energy you're going to be able to produce. And then is the weather. You need to account for the radiation that you're going to have in that side. uh,
Mm,
Probably northern sites, sites like in Michigan or areas like that where you have snow. You know that in the mornings you will have really low production because snow will be covering the panels, and you need to wait for the snow to melt so they can start like actually picking up the UV from the sun.
yeah,
Uh,
wow.
so you need to know your side for one, analyze it, taking into account the weather constraints that you're going to have. Then also know which equipment you're going to choose. Then you grab all of that, you put it into a software. The software simulates how your site is going to behave for a full year. So you know how much energy you're going to produce each month, because it's not a fixed amount of energy. As you can see, in winter, you have less daylight hours, and then in summer the daylight hours are longer. So that means that you're producing for longer times in summer, and
Hmm.
for a shorter time in winter, right? So you need to take that into account, not only for the project itself, but also the project owner needs to know that, because he needs to repay that project. So he needs to know how much he's going to invoice, to know how
Hmm.
much he's going to be able to pay the banks or the lenders, you know. So that's a very high level of what we will analyze from a site. From a high level, I think that all the things that might affect the capacity will be like, if you have wetlands or civil constraints on the site, a river, or you have
Hmm.
um, water runoff that you cannot really touch because the county wouldn't allow it, then those are taken into account as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, that was so many more factors than it, because I feel like for the average person, your experience with renewable energy is either a solar panel on a roof or a EV car, right? Like you have no idea the
Right.
scale and depth and intricacy and complications of all the different factors. So that was really awesome to learn that.
It's a very fun world. It's changing every day. We have new technologies coming in like yearly basis. Capacity of modules is growing. Efficiency of things is growing as well. So yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting um, career path to choose. If you
Yeah,
are still in college or thinking about what to do, renewable energy will be something that it will still be valid in the future, and it will be something that ChatGPT cannot do for us.
absolutely. Job security. Um,
Uh,
Well, awesome, Luis. Well, it has been such a pleasure to learn about your just everything, your leadership style, kind of your problems that you have to solve on a day to day basis. Yeah, it's been awesome having you on the Lions Den.
Thank you, Benicia, and you're welcome to visit La Paz anytime you want. And thank you for the chat. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast. and I hope that people can make the best out of this chat.